You guys enjoy the commentary? Give me ones in the chat if you guys are enjoying this commentary, bro. You ain't gonna get shit like this nowhere else, bro. You got a former Fed reading this shit with y'all, cracking jokes and stuff. This shit crazy. This shit fucking crazy, bro. I cannot fucking believe what I'm reading right now. I had to put the Fed jacket on for this one. This is nuts. Yeah, this is fucking Fed classic Fed shit. Where we at in the story? Don't worry, I'll recap here in a minute. Bro. Okay. Let's carry on. So after Gucci signed the paperwork, Pooh Shiesty gave the paperwork to his dad. He asked him if the paperwork was good. His dad said the paperwork needed to be dated. So then Pooh Shiesty told Gucci to add the date next to his signature. As Gucci and Wright exited the recording room, the remaining subjects, all the people in Pooh Shiesty's entourage, produced handguns or AK-style pistols and began to demand property from BP and M. Oh, my God. Bro. Okay. One of the victims was pushed onto a couch in a control room while an individual known to BP, CMO Danfool, and part of Williams Jr.'s crew, later identified as Roger, searched his pockets and stole his wallet. And a necklace bearing the moniker 1017 were stolen from his neck, and another subject he knew as Glizzy 375, later identified as McDaniel, during the robbery. McDaniel threatened to shoot BP for moving, but Pooh Shiesty instructed McDaniel not to. Wow. Okay, BP further identified an individual he knew as Baby Slime 375, later identified as Johnson, as being involved in the kidnapping and robbery and during the control room robberies. Johnson possessed a firearm and held BP and others at gunpoint. Both MM and BP identified an individual they knew as KD, later identified as Waters, as also being involved in the kidnapping. Don't worry, I'm going to distill all of this for you guys here in a second. MM was choked from behind to the point of nearly losing consciousness during the... Oh, wow. So one of the people were choked to the point of almost losing consciousness during the kidnapping. And he has scratches on his neck and wrist. MM was robbed of his Rolex watch, a Louis Vuitton bag containing multiple other high-dollar watches, Apple AirPod, headphones, and his wallet at gunpoint by Glover. As the altercation inside the control room ensued, Wright walked over to the studio door to the lobby, closed it, and blocked it with his body, preventing the victims from leaving. CW and TD and the victim's security guards watched Wright barricade the door and attempted to force their way into the control room, but were prevented from entering. With handguns drawn, CW and TD managed to partially open the door, but recognized that they were outnumbered by the armed target suspects. All right. So what the fuck is going on here? Basically, Pooh Shiesty and like 6 of his people went into a music studio to meet Gucci Mane and his people, and Pooh Shiesty wanted to be let out of his contract. For those of you that don't know, he was signed to 1017. It was probably a 360 deal or some shit like that, where Gucci's making money on everything that fucking Pooh Shiesty does. He probably got tired of that shit. He wanted to go independent. So he told Gucci to release him. Gucci said no. When he said no, Pooh Shiesty was already prepared. He brought guns, pulls out an AK-style pistol, holds him at gunpoint. His father's there, forced him to sign a contract. While this is going on, the rest of Pooh Shiesty's entourage pull out guns and hold all Gucci's people at gunpoint. And to add insult to injury, somebody in the chat says, Gucci Mane. Facts, nigga. Like, that's actually funny. Somebody in the chat called this nigga Gucci Mane. That's actually funny. But I digress. So anyway, so Pooh Shiesty tried to get him to sign. He didn't want to sign. Pulls out a gun. Then he signs. His bonehead friend records the fucking signing under duress, which is illegal in itself. His dad tells him to date the contract, as if that fucking matters. And then all his other homeboys pull out guns and hold the rest of the staff as hostages. And as they're holding them as hostages in the studio, they rob them and take their money as well. This is crazy. Bro, this is one of the most wild criminal complaints I've ever read in my life, bro. So Gucci Mane was pushed onto the couch in the control room, causing the victims to believe they were going to be executed. Pooh Shiesty placed a barrel of a firearm to the back of BP's head and ordered him and Gucci to leave the control room and the studio through the west entrance of the office building. Gucci then instructed CW and TD to escort them to their vehicle. As the victims left, MM turned to Pooh Shiesty and asked them if they were really taking his watches. Based on later recovered surveillance footage, the target suspects left the studio and office building through the east entrance of approximately 4:48. So the robbery began at roughly okay, so they walked in at around 3:45 p.m. on January 10th. That's like when they walked in, and then they were out of there by like an hour later, it looks like. Yeah, 4:48. So they're gone in about an hour. And here's some of the photos. Exterior surveillance videos recovered from a neighboring building showed a white Buick Enclave, a black Dodge Charger Hellcat, and a black Dodge Ram with a distinct roll bar affixed to the bed of the truck traveling northbound shortly after. Bro, niggas had a Hellcat? Of course they had a fucking Hellcat, bro. Oh, my God. Bro, niggas really had a Hellcat, bro. Yo, how you gonna show up to a robbery with a Hellcat, man? Confirm all the stereotypes. Well, well, well. Well, well, well. Someone in the chat said, it's probably a loud ass muffler. Facts. Niggas came in the loudest fucking vehicles, bro. Jigga Jones, thank you so much for the 10 gifted, bro. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm glad you guys are really enjoying this commentary. According to law enforcement databases, Wright's father, also named Rodney Wright, owns a 2020 Dodge Charger Hellcat bearing Tennessee license plate BHB blah, blah, blah. In particular, 2:18 p.m. on at 2:18 p.m. scan on January 10, 2026 captured the Charger falling in close proximity to a black Dodge Ram, Arkansas license plate, blah, blah, blah. Dodge Ram appears to have the same distinct roll bar as the Dodge Ram. So basically, leading up to the robbery, they were able to reconstruct all of Pooh Shiesty and his entourage's movements before they got to the studio to rob Gucci Mane. They used license plate readers. LPRs, guys, license plate readers. I remember I used to use this when I was on a job too. A lot of these tolls, a lot of these streets have license plate readers all over the place, and law enforcement has access to that. So they can basically reconstruct the path you took leading up to the crime. Right? And it was pretty advanced back when I was an agent in 2020. So I could only imagine how much better it is now. I mean, look, these are pretty fucking high quality stills. So LPR scans. Okay, so they got them with the LPR scans. They found out what cars were what. Okay, so right here. So Pooh Shiesty is currently serving a 63-month sentence for a violation of AUC 924, conspiracy to possess firearms and furtherance of violent drug trafficking crimes that he sustained in the Southern District of Florida, like we discussed earlier in 2022. According to BOP, he was approved for home detention on or about October 31st, 2025 as a part of his conditions for home detention. Pooh Shiesty agreed not to possess any deadly weapon or knowingly be in the company of a person possessing the same. Pooh Shiesty Jr. is also required to wear an electronic monitoring device monitored by the BOP. Investigators see partial records associated with Pooh Shiesty's electronic monitoring device, including location data from January 9th and January 10th. These records corroborated the information investigators received regarding Pooh Shiesty's movements, including his location at or near the offense location on January 10, 2026. Bro. Hey, Matt Millions, enjoy the shadow run, bitch.
Time to send you to the shadow realm. The future is mine.
Sorry, I had to take out the trash real quick. Okay. Let's look at this. So back in 2021, Pooh Shiesty rents a McLaren from a dude in South Florida. He meets up with that dude to organize the purchase of Jordans and weed. During the process, during the sale, during the meeting, which was all captured on CCTV, by the way, across the street from a police station, he robs and shoots the individual that rented him the McLaren over a dispute on weed and Jordans. And then he drives away in a bright neon McLaren that he rented from the victim. To add insult to injury, he drops a Louis Vuitton bag with $40,000 in cash. So he clearly had the money to buy the Jordans and the weed. As he's fleeing from the location in the rented vehicle of the victim, who can easily identify him because he's a famous rapper at this point worth millions of dollars, the bag falls. Investigators get to the crime scene and recover the $40,000. As they recover the $40,000, they look at the serial numbers of the currency. One of the serial numbers of the $100 bills matches an Instagram photo on Pooh Shiesty's public profile. Pooh Shiesty took HD photos of himself bragging with money. So HD that the feds were able to zoom in and read the serial numbers clearly. The serial number in the Instagram photo matched the serial number at the crime scene. Pooh Shiesty went to prison for this for many years. At the height of his career, he went to federal prison. Now, while in federal prison, he was still signed to Gucci Mane, 1017. He probably might have not been making as much money as he feels he deserves off of his songs. And there was probably some resentment built up while he was in prison. So while Pooh Shiesty was in prison, this agitation probably started to become crazy. He gets out of prison years later in October of 2025 for good behavior and everything else for his, robbery and everything else that he did back in 2021-ish. 3 months after being released from federal prison, right? And being on probation with a fucking ankle monitor, by the way, he meets up with his boys and says, we're going to go to Texas and meet with Gucci Mane. I'm going to get myself out of this contract. Now, Gucci Mane is also a hard-headed thug as well. So Pooh Shiesty, I guess, brought some, for lack of a better term, negotiating lubricant. This negotiating lubricant was AK-47s and firearms. So they organize this meet in Texas, and they arrive on the scene, driving their own personal cars. And while driving their personal cars, to include a fucking Hellcat, yeah, I know, you can't make this up. I wish I was kidding around, but I'm summarizing this shit for you guys. So they go there in their own cars, license plate readers find them all over the place, and they arrange to meet Gucci Mane at a studio. Pooh Shiesty asks Gucci Mane to speak to him privately in a side room. Pooh Shiesty, his father, and one of his friends are in the room talking to Gucci Mane. Pooh Shiesty aggressively tells him, release me from my contract. Gucci Mane says no. Pooh Shiesty says, okay. And he pulls out a fucking AK-47 and points it at Gucci Mane. While this is happening, the guy that gave Pooh Shiesty the gun pulls out a phone and starts recording the crime. To make this even funnier, after Gucci Mane signs the contract to release Pooh Shiesty gives the contract to his father and asks him, is this adequate, Dad? After looking at it, his father says, no.
Nope.
He needs to date it. As if not dating it would somehow make it void. Forget about the guns and the fact that the rest of his friends are being holed up in another room. No, bro, you better date this shit, motherfucker. Now, as Gucci Mane is being stuck up to sign this contract, Pooh Shiesty's friends that he came with, it looks like 5 or 6 of them, have the rest of Gucci Mane's security and entourage at gunpoint. One of Pooh Shiesty's people stands in front of the door so they cannot leave. So now, Gucci Mane and all of his associates are being held at gunpoint. Gucci Mane in the side room and his other people like in the lobby. As they're sitting there at gunpoint, Pooh Shiesty decides, fuck it. Let's take all their other shit too. The contract ain't enough. So they rob Gucci Mane of his wedding ring, cash, and jewelry. They also rob members of his entourage of their jewelry. Well, if you're going to rob someone of jewelry, you probably don't want it to be distinct so it can be traced back to you. Well, I guess Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Pooh Shiesty and his father, and their gang, think it's a good idea to steal 1017 chains. 1017 is a record label that Gucci Mane owns and operates. Members of his entourage have these chains. So Gucci Mane and his people steal these chains. And the cherry on top of all of this, besides his friend recording their event, besides his dad saying to sign the fucking document and put the date, or his friend sticking up all the other individuals in the other room with CCTV, Pooh Shiesty does all of this with an ankle monitor on. I'm going to say that again. He did all of this 3 months fresh out of prison with an ankle monitor on. Chad, I think we can officially say at this point, given all the facts and circumstances I just gave you guys, I covered his first case, summarized what just transpired. I think I can unequivocally say that Pooh Shiesty is the stupidest criminal I've ever seen in my fucking life.
My people, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with us. I don't know what's wrong with us.
Not only did he commit an extremely serious crime against a famous rapper, he did it with an ankle monitor on. And 1080p. And the feds were able to track it, obviously. So on the day of the offense, approximately 1:50 p.m.,